I love the Metro games. It's a game series that is full of darkness and dread, with a setting that is meant to make you feel confined and alone, while at the same time showing the best and worst of humanity, letting the player explore and discover the remnants of this destroyed world. With the lessons learned from the predecessor 2033, Last Light uses all of the advantages of a linear story-driven game to deliver one of the best stories of redemption in gaming. But with Metro Last Light being the sequel to Metro 2033, it brings the same mechanics, combat, and graphics all from 2033, making the gameplay feel very similar if not almost the exact same from its previous entry. Which isn't a bad thing, as it's a combat system that doesn't need much improving on. I mean, if Far Cry can do it for 4 games straight, why can't Metro? It focuses more on positioning than actual aim, using the darkness to your advantage and surprising enemies when they least expect it. But I have already rambled on about that, so watch my other video if you want a gameplay synopsis. If you don't want it, here's a summary. Shoot enemy from dark. Enemy no know where you are. No hut, die real fast. Be creative with light. Where it mainly deviates is the more varied environments, and how lighting is used more creatively. As in 2033, most of the game is in the Metro. As expected, the game is called Metro, but leads to many levels feeling the same, as you can only show a subway station so many times before it gets old. Last Light, on the other hand, pushes you to 2 unique areas right off the bat. The nest, or, well, I guess, X-nest, of the Dark Ones and a Nazi concentration camp. It keeps this pace throughout the whole game, constantly showing new environments like the catacombs, spider's nest, and even swamps. Even the surface is changing as the seasons are transitioning from winter to spring, bringing green to the otherwise gray and white Moscow. Compared to 2033, Last Light brings a breath of fresh air into environments that you wouldn't even have realized it needed. It all comes together to make the world of Metro a more interesting and more colorful place to explore. Now, one of my biggest complaints with the last game was weapon mount. As with many shooters, many of the guns you find you just don't end up using. As the ammo is rare, you have a limited inventory, or there are just better options. And this continues into Last Light, with many guns you find you will not end up using. The game offers you most of the guns from the first game to try out at the very start, with a shooting range letting players from the beginning to try all the different weapons they may have missed in the previous entry, incentivizing players to try a different loadout from the beginning, while still offering those that want to stay with their comfort loadout to continue their playstyle. The game also tries to push you out of handholding as soon as possible, teaching many basic mechanics as fast as possible and push you on your own, right after they introduce my favorite character. It's Pavel. Holy shit, I love Pavel. When I first started Last Light, in the first 10 minutes, I wasn't a fan. Making me follow this mentor who was supposed to teach me about the world, I wasn't too excited. As in 2033, a quarter of the game, mainly the first quarter of the game, you're spent behind a mentor-like figure who leads you to constantly being told what to do and feeling railroaded to the next story beat. Pavel spits in the face of all that and says, he doesn't act as your guide, but more your companion throughout your journey. It makes the player feel more active in the story of the game, especially since you both save each other on numerous occasions. And on top of that, he is a Soviet, a man from a different faction to yourself, offering a different outlook on the people you see as enemies, while still showing their flaws. He grows on you to become one of the best characters in the franchise. But this characterization isn't exclusive to Pavel. You start to see Nazis that are discriminated against, made fun of, and are even executed for not being perfect. Last Light shines a brighter light on these other factions of the Metro and how they aren't perfect. You hear more accounts of what is going on inside these stations and how many are preparing for war, leaving numerous refugees to fend for themselves and making the dangerous trip to Polis. You know, the journey that can only be described as the hell you went through most of the last game, and in typical Metro fashion, telling bits and pieces of people's lives, the worries of the new mandated conscription, trying to teach kids about old world animals, and even showing a play. Even showing more love to the monsters in and outside of the Metro, showing their interactions more and how many fight for territory, have natural predators, and even what their dens look like, especially these spider-looking things, Being only scared by light, you usually have to juggle staring at them with your light on while watching your ass for any that might be hiding. Scared me a couple times, but I'm just a pussy, so it might just be me. Very cool enemy, but their cobwebs are annoying, so B tier. All these aspects of the game come together for one purpose: to teach RTM about the Metro on his own. As throughout 2033 you are shown the Metro through the guidance of many individuals. Khan, Bourbon, Mason, you all follow these characters throughout the game and experience the game through their eyes. In Last Light, that guidance is mainly torn away and you are left to explore and fight for yourself. These experiences are all of your own choosing. You can just blitz through the game now, avoiding all optional areas and miss the entire point of the game. It gives you the freedom to approach however you want and go where you want. Where 2033 held you back at the fear of the player getting bored, Last Light lets you off the leash and lets you explore the levels to your heart's content. Even the missions where you are just at a station and you can buy stuff. I spent arguably more time exploring and listening to people in those levels than I did in actual levels where you were fighting and progressing the story. It opens the world to RTM and making the player more interested in exploring and being immersed in the world of the game, and leaving the player to discover things that interest them rather than being forced to look at something by the game. It's why open world games work. The story is everywhere, so no matter where you go, you feel you're at charge of the plot. And what you discover was by yourself, not being driven by the plot towards something cool. The discovery of finding that cool thing by yourself leaves a way better impression on the player than if it was set on a track for you to find it. But that's as far as I can go without spoiling most of the game. It goes without saying, the story-driven game is heavily based on its story, and spoilers could take away from experience. So, yeah. So let's start with the elephant in the room. Haval fucking betrays you. The cunt. And sets you off on your journey to find and stop whatever he plans to do to Polis, as the control of D6 is what every faction is worried about, a supply depot big enough to last whoever holds it for decades. So, everyone is now fighting over this holy grail of a finding that you and your team found, and with RTM now being a part of the Rangers who now control D6, you become especially a target. Being captured, then subsequently freed, you try to track down and find Pavel throughout most of the game, being put into terrible situations and pushing onward, saving whoever you can and fighting for a better future of the Metro, leading to you finding the death of a station by disease and a quick extermination, as they say, of said disease by the Reds. Khan then enters the story as a guide to help RTM to the answer for his problems. His appearance was actually welcomed when he guides you along, opposed to in 2033, where you are led by the good character Bourbon. You are immediately picked up by Khan right after he leaves the story, feeling like a teenager after your mom picks you up from the court-mandated weekends with your father, wishing you got to spend a bit more time with him, but at the same time, you just want to be on your own. In contrast, Khan is a breath of fresh air after roaming through the horrors of the Metro and alone for hours on end. He offers insight and a chance for RTM to make amends and reflect on his journey so far, to get RTM to have a chance to get into contact with the last Dark One and to talk to them. And once RTM does get the chance, he starts to bond and understand the Dark One, the little guy offering aid to RTM getting across the surface, and watching the actions that RTM takes, commenting and leaving an impression on the little guy. And slowly, it starts to mend the bonds between him and the race he exterminated. But it all gets interrupted by the Reds wanting to put an end not only to you, but the monster you carry. But this time is different. When before you killed the Dark Ones out of fear and self-preservation, now you fight for a greater cause, to save the Metro from the oncoming war. And you aren't some no-name stalker anymore. You are an elite soldier who is well known, and most of the enemies fear in this level.
He disappeared! Look for him! We'll fail the mission if we don't find him! What if he's not over there? If he commanded like this. Calm down, Jackal! He's alone!
It brings to light the frankly genocidal level of kills you have racked up over the course of the two games. An interesting detail that shows how much a monster you are compared to everyone else. And continuing on, you meet Pavel and are given a choice: to spare or kill him. Throughout RTM's journey, you have seen countless dead bodies, many of which no doubt are your doing. and right now you are given a chance to forgive the man who has stabbed you in the back. Is he worth forgiving the lives he has taken, and if you weren't there, would have taken, as he plans to kill most of the Metro? Or are you two really so different? As well, following what you believe is right, and what you believe is best for the Metro, is exactly what Pavel is doing. You, yourself, exterminated an entire race just because you were blind to any other solution, ignoring the wishes of Khan and moving forward to the easiest solution. Pavel is on the same track, to save the Red Line from perishing and being absorbed by the Rangers. The only difference being, he has yet to cause such an atrocity. The game in reality is asking if you deserve a second chance, not only for the countless Dark Ones you have killed, but the numerous people you have hurt on your journey. Will forgiving Pavel really change his ideology, and is he really worth letting the man who betrayed you back into the Metro? I think Artyom would agree, and spare his life, giving him a chance to both redeem himself and for Artyom to save who he can. Showing an act of forgiveness that is not forgotten by the little Dark One watching. And so you leave. After being shortly interrupted, you return to D6, preparing for the coming Red Army. And after a hard-fought battle... Holy shit, how many of you are there? Ow, my fucking leg! Is that a fucking train? Oh, yeah. My fucking god, how are there so many? Is that fucking Captain Winters?
What the hell is this?
Holy shit. That was a lot.
Not again!
Oh, shit! In the end, the Dark Ones take a lesson out of Artyom's own book, and forgive him. For all the distraught and pain he has caused to their race, they see humans can change. But it will take time. And that time will come, but for now, they decide to separate themselves until humanity can grow into something better. A species capable of forgiving the past and letting go for a brighter future. The point of Last Light's story is the journey of forgiveness, showing how the act of forgiving others can lead those same people to forgive you, even if the actions taken were harmful, stupid, or out of self-preservation. An act of forgiveness gives way for people to heal. But it isn't easy, and requires oftentimes feeling vulnerable or weak. But in the end, that forgiveness will be returned, and from that, a lesson learned, and a bond formed for the future. Last Light is one of the best story games I have had the pleasure to experience without having to sit through a 40-hour story with dialogue options, an open world, and a price tag that is unjustifiable. Only being brought down by a love interest that made me physically angry just watching. But that's really it. It's a game that I've spent hours looking in every nook and cranny to find more hidden details about the world. It's a pond that definitely isn't very wide, but certainly goes deep. Now, if you still aren't convinced, there is one more aspect to the game. It is very brief, but there is a bit of nudity. So if your goon cave was recently closed by the government for being a public safety hazard, then give Metro a try. Someone's gotta appreciate the hard work lonely programmers spent to code those jiggle physics. And there is going to be a bigger gap between Metro Exodus and Last Light than there was for 2033 in this one, because it's a bigger game and will take more time. For now, something else will fill the gap. What that something is, I have no fucking idea. Them dark oak saplings, bitch.
Fucking nigga.
I like how dark oak looks, but I don't like it.
Oh yeah, the trees are a pile of shit, but they look cool.
And the blanks, and my pickaxe broke.
What the fuck, you? Fuck, dude.
You don't know that shit.
What the actual fuck?
I don't even have to look over there.
He just fucking phase shifted through the fucking cobblestone.
Also, unless you're really interested in the story, only play the spider layer and yeah, push guides to DLCs. Those are the most fun ones. Trust.